Admiral James Walker stood at the massive viewport of Earth Command Station, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. Below him, Earth turned slowly, its blue oceans now tinted gray with ash, its green continents scarred with black, craters where cities had once stood. Yet despite these wounds, his planet lived. More importantly, his planet had won. Admiral, the broadcast system is ready. Walker turned to face the young officer. Lieutenant Davis looked tired. They all did. No one had slept much during the 3 months of the invasion, and even less during the final week when humanity's desperate counterattack had driven the aliens back. How many of their communication systems did we capture intact? Walker asked. 12. Major relay stations, sir. Our techs say that's enough to reach about 60% of their known territory. Walker nodded. It will have to do. The rest will hear it from their friends. He straightened his uniform jacket. Is Dr. Reed here yet? As if summoned by his words, the door to the observation deck slid open. Dr. Emily Reed entered, carrying a data tablet. Her right arm was in a sling, a souvenir from the Battle of New Delhi, where she had been collecting alien technology while under heavy fire. Doctor, Walker greeted her. What have we learned about our unwelcome visitors? Reed swiped across her tablet with her good hand. Images of various alien species appeared, along with star maps and ship designs. They call themselves the Stellar Concordat, 17 different species in total with a loose central government. They've been expanding for about 300 years. She looked up at Walker. We weren't their first victims, just their latest. Walker frowned. And their reason for attacking us? Standard procedure according to their military logs. They find developing worlds, overwhelm them with superior technology, and add them to the Concordat, sometimes as slaves, sometimes as low-status members. Reed's mouth formed a grim line. They expected us to surrender within days. Walker turned back to the viewport, staring at Earth. Their mistake. It had been their mistake indeed. The Concordat had arrived with ships that dwarfed humanity's largest vessels. Their weapons had cut through Earth's defenses like paper. Their soldiers had landed in major cities across the globe, but they had not counted on human adaptability. They had not expected Earth's militaries to set aside their differences and unite within hours of the first attack. They had not anticipated how quickly human scientists would reverse engineer captured alien weapons. And most of all, they had not understood that humans, when backed into a corner, would fight with a savagery that shocked even veteran Concordat commanders. The tide had turned 3 weeks into the invasion when Russian and American special forces had captured an intact alien destroyer over the ruins of Tokyo. Within days, Earth scientists had cracked its propulsion and weapon systems. Within 2 weeks, those same weapons had been mass-produced in underground factories around the world. The aliens had expected to face spears. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy who took their own weapons and improved them. The broadcast team is ready, sir, Lieutenant Davis said, interrupting Walker's thoughts. Walker nodded. Tell me about the current situation in the Concordat, Doctor. Reed swiped to a new screen on her tablet. Their fleet is in retreat. Based on their communications, many of their commanders were killed in our counterattack. Their leadership is in chaos. She paused. But the Concordat is just one power in the galaxy. There are others who might see us as a threat or an opportunity. Walker walked to the center of the room where a simple podium had been set up. Behind it, the Earth turned slowly, its battle scars visible to all who would soon watch the broadcast. That's why they need to hear from us, he said. All of them. Reed took a position off to the side, just out of camera range. The broadcast crew gave Walker a countdown. 3, 2, 1. The red light on the camera blinked on. My name is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force, he began, his voice steady and cold. I speak to you from Earth orbit, where the last ships of your Concordat invasion fleet are being destroyed as I talk. Walker paused, letting the silence hang for a moment. You came to our world uninvited. You destroyed our cities. You killed millions of our people. You expected us to bow down before your superior technology. His eyes narrowed. Instead, We took your weapons and turned them against you. We studied your ships and improved them. We adapted in weeks what took you centuries to develop." Walker pressed a button on the podium. Behind him, the view changed to show footage of Earth's counterattack. Captured alien vessels now piloted by humans, alongside hastily constructed Earthships equipped with reverse-engineered weapons tearing through the Concordat fleet. This message is not just for what remains of your Concordat leadership. It is for every spacefaring civilization in this galaxy. Walker's voice grew harder. Earth was not looking for war. We did not venture into space seeking conflict. You brought this war to us. The screen behind him changed again, showing the test firing of a new weapon system. A beam of energy lanced out from an orbital platform, striking a small asteroid. The space rock didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, reduced to its component atoms in an instant. This weapon was developed by Earth scientists, based on technology we captured from your invasion fleet. What took your species generations to create, we mastered in months. Walker's face remained impassive. And this is just the beginning. The screen changed again, showing production facilities buried deep beneath Earth's surface, churning out ships and weapons at a pace that even the Concordat would find difficult to match. "Let me be clear about what happens next," Walker continued. "Earth will rebuild. Earth will expand into our solar system and eventually to the stars. We will develop our own path among the galactic community." Walker leaned forward slightly, his hands gripping the edges of the podium. "And if any species attacks Earth again, if any civilization makes the same mistake the Concordat made, they will be annihilated." The last word hung in the air. Not defeated, not pushed back, annihilated. This is not a threat. This is not a negotiating position. This is a promise. Walker straightened up. "We now possess the means to detect your faster-than-light travel. We can track your ships, and should any hostile vessel approach our world again, we will respond with overwhelming force." Behind him, Earth continued its slow rotation, the scars of invasion clearly visible. "Earth seeks no war. Earth desires no empire. Leave us in peace and you will find us peaceful. Attack us again." Walker paused, letting his words sink in. "And it will be the last decision your civilization ever makes." Walker nodded once. "That is all." The broadcast ended. The red light on the camera blinked off. For a moment there was silence on the command deck. Then Reed spoke, her voice quiet. "Do you think they'll listen?" Walker turned to look back at Earth. Lights were visible now on its night side, cities being rebuilt, power grids coming back online. Humanity, resilient as ever, was already healing. "Some will," he said. "Others will see it as a challenge. That's why we need to be ready." Reed nodded. "The captured data shows at least 3 major power groups besides the Concordat. Not all of them will be happy to learn about a new species that can fight back." Walker's gaze remained fixed on Earth. "Then they'll learn what the Concordat learned. Humanity doesn't start wars." His eyes hardened. "We finish them." In the vast reaches of space, the broadcast rippled outward at faster-than-light speeds, carried by captured Concordat relay stations. In thousands of alien ships, command centers, and worlds, beings of various forms and biologies watched the human admiral deliver his cold warning. And on a distant world that humans would one day know as Nova Prime, General Krell of the Void Wing, Armada watched the broadcast with growing rage. The defeat of the Concordat forces could not stand. The human's arrogance would not go unanswered. He began to plan. 6 months after Earth's warning was broadcast to the stars, Ambassador Thomas Gray stepped off the shuttle onto the metal floor of Nexus Station. He tried not to look impressed, but it was difficult. The massive space station hung at the edge of what was once Concordat space, a giant metal wheel spinning slowly to create gravity. Ships of all sizes and shapes docked along its outer ring. "Try not to stare," whispered Lisa Ortiz, his chief of security. "We don't want to look like the new kids at school." Gray nodded. He was a tall man with short gray hair that matched his last name. Before becoming Earth's first ambassador to alien species, he had been a colonel in the United Earth Defense Force. The scars on his face told the story of the battles he had fought during the invasion. Any hostiles identified? He asked quietly. About a dozen species represented here, Ortiz replied. At least 3 were part of the Concordat. The others, we're still figuring them out. A blue-skinned alien approached them. It walked on 2 legs and had 4 arms. Its face had no nose, just breathing slits, and its eyes were large and completely black. Ambassador Gray of Earth, the alien said in perfect English. I am Liaison Vera of the Ashtari. Welcome to Nexus Station. Gray extended his hand, then realized the alien might not know the human custom. To his surprise, Vera reached out with one of its lower arms and shook his hand perfectly. We have studied your species, Vera explained. The Ashtari believe in understanding others. I appreciate that, Gray said. We have much to learn about galactic society. Yes, Vera agreed. And many have much to learn about humans. Your victory over the Concordat has created much discussion. As they walked through the station, Gray tried not to react to the many alien forms around him. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange he couldn't even tell which parts were heads and which were bodies. Many stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. Your quarters have been prepared, Vera said, leading them to a section of the station marked with Earth's flag. This will be your embassy. The Trading Council will meet with you tomorrow. After Vera left, Ortiz ran a scanner around the rooms. Clean, she announced. No listening devices. That we can detect anyway. Gray nodded and turned to the rest of his team. Besides Ortiz, there were 2 diplomats, 3 scientists, and 4 Marines in plain clothes. Earth was taking no chances. Dr. Miller, he said to one of the scientists, what do we know about the Ashtari? Miller, a woman with short blonde hair and quick eyes, checked her tablet. They're traders and diplomats. They stay neutral in most conflicts. They weren't part of the Concordat, but they did business with them. Can we trust them? Miller shrugged. More than others, probably. But remember, every species here has its own goals. The next day, Gray sat at a large round table with representatives from 12 alien species. Some looked at the humans with curiosity. Others showed clear hostility. Earth claims the right to defend itself, said a reptilian alien with red scales. Yet you threaten to destroy entire civilizations. How are we to trust such violent creatures? Gray looked directly at the alien. We didn't start the war. The Concordat did, we finished it. A lucky victory, sneered another alien. This one covered in thick fur with 6 eyes arranged in a circle on its face. Primitive beings shouldn't play with technology they don't understand. Before Gray could answer, Vera spoke. The Ashtari have reviewed the battle data. Earth's victory was not luck. They adapted and innovated at a rate never before seen in the galaxy. This is concerning to some. Concerning? Asked the furry alien. It's dangerous. These humans could be building fleets right now, planning to attack us all. Gray shook his head. Earth wants trade, not war. A loud boom shook the room, cutting off Gray's words. Alarms blared throughout the station. Security breach in Docking Bay 7, announced a voice over the station's speakers. Ortiz was instantly at Gray's side, weapon drawn. We need to move, sir. They rushed back to the Earth Embassy section. Dr. Miller met them at the door, her face pale. It was a bomb, she said. In the docking bay where our shuttle was parked. The shuttle is destroyed. Gray's face hardened. Casualties? 2 station security officers. No humans. This was a message, Ortiz said. They want us to know we're not welcome. Later that night, as Gray sat in his office reviewing security footage, Vera arrived unexpectedly. Ambassador, we must speak privately, the alien said. Vera seemed nervous, constantly looking around. Gray nodded to Ortiz, who checked Vera for weapons, then left them alone. What I tell you now comes at great risk, Vera said quietly. General Krell of the Voidwing Armada is gathering forces. He was a high commander in the Concordat, and he sees your people as a stain on his honor. Gray leaned forward. The bombing? Krell's agents, yes, but this is just the beginning. Vera's black eyes seemed to grow darker. He is convincing others that humans will become conquerors if not stopped now. He speaks of your rapid technological growth as proof. We just want to be left alone, Gray insisted. Perhaps, but Admiral Walker's message frightened many, and fear leads to bad decisions. Vera paused. There is more. Something called Operation Sunforge. What's that? I don't know details, only that it involves a weapon of terrible power. Vera stood, to leave. Watch for allies, Ambassador. Not all species agree with Krell. Some see potential in humans. After Vera left, Gray called Dr. Reed back on Earth. Her face appeared on the screen, looking tired. Emily, we need to speed up the Sentinel system, he said without greeting. And get the Admiral. We have a problem. 3 weeks later, Gray stood before representatives of 10 different alien species in a private meeting room. These weren't the hostile ones from before. These were potential allies, curious about Earth. My government has authorized me to share this with you, Gray said, activating a display. The screen showed a test firing of Earth's new defense system. Massive satellites in orbit around Earth fired energy beams that converged on a small moon in the outer solar system. The beams cut through the moon's surface like butter, splitting it in half. A murmur went through the aliens. This is one of several defense systems Earth has developed, Gray explained. We call it the Sentinel system. It can target any ship entering our solar system. You show us weapons? Asked a tall, thin alien with skin like tree bark. Is this a threat? No, Gray said firmly. It's proof. Proof that Earth can defend itself. Proof that attacking us again would be suicide. He looked at each alien in turn. We want peace. We want trade. We want to learn from you and share what we know. But we will not be conquered. One of the aliens, a being that looked like a floating ball of light, moved closer. Some on this station say humans are too dangerous to be allowed into the galactic community. That you will become the next Concordat. Gray shook his head. Earth has no interest in building an empire. We had enough trouble managing just one planet. This got a few laughs from the aliens, but we will not be victims either. As the meeting ended, several of the aliens approached Gray to discuss possible trade agreements. It was a start. Later, as Gray returned to the Earth Embassy, an urgent message waited for him from Dr. Reed. He read it twice, his face growing. First, the message was simple. Their intelligence teams had intercepted communications about Operation Sunforge. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a planet killer, and Earth was its target. Gray looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, General Krell was preparing for war. And despite all of Earth's new weapons and technologies, Gray wondered if they were ready for what was coming. The warning had been delivered, but some were choosing not to listen. Admiral Walker stood in the massive underground hangar, looking up at humanity's greatest achievement since the end of the invasion. The UES Defiance was Earth's first faster-than-light spaceship, built using technology captured from the Concordat fleet. It wasn't as large as the alien ships had been, but its sleek black hull hinted at the deadly weapon systems it carried. She'll be ready for testing next week, said Chief Engineer Roberts, a woman with dark skin and hands rough from years of work. We've improved their engine design by about 30%. Walker nodded. And the weapons? Better than anything. The Concordat had, Roberts said with pride. The main cannon can punch through 3 meters of their strongest armor. We've also installed the new Prometheus device. Walker's face grew serious at the mention of the Prometheus device. It was Earth's most terrible weapon, designed as a last resort. The scientists who created it refused to test it at full power, fearing what it might do. A young officer approached them. Admiral, urgent message from Ambassador Gray on Nexus Station. Walker followed the officer to the command center, buried deep under what used to be Colorado before the invasion. The room was filled with screens and busy personnel. One large screen lit up with Gray's face. Admiral, we have confirmed reports about Operation Sunforge, Gray said without greeting. It's worse than we thought. Tell me, Walker ordered. It's a superweapon being built in the Erebus system. According to our sources, it can create an artificial solar flare and direct it at a target system. Gray's face was grim. It could burn Earth's atmosphere away. Nothing would survive. Walker was silent for a moment. Timeline? 2 weeks, maybe less, until it's operational. General Krell has united 7 species into what they're calling the Purgation Front. Their goal is to eliminate humanity before we can spread to other star systems. Walker turned to the officer beside him. Prepare the Defiance for immediate launch. Contact Captain Reeves. Sir, the ship hasn't completed testing, the officer protested. It'll have to be good enough, Walker said firmly. We need to see this weapon for ourselves. He turned back to Gray's image. Thomas, do we have any allies out there? Gray nodded. A few. The Ashtari have been helpful. There's also a splinter group from the Concordat, led by a Commander Thex, who seems to hate Krell more than he fears humans. And the Mercantile Collective sees profit potential in trading with us. Get whatever intelligence you can about the Erebus system. We're sending the Defiance to investigate. After the call ended, Walker sat alone in his office. On his desk was a photo of his family, taken before the invasion. His wife and daughter had been in London when the Concordat ships arrived. London was now a crater. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Reed entered, looking as tired as he felt. You wanted to see me, Admiral? You're going on the Defiance, Walker said. You know more about alien technology than anyone. They need you to analyze this Sunforge weapon. Reed nodded. I've been studying the intercepted communications. If their science is solid, this weapon could do exactly what they claim. Can we stop it? Reed hesitated. Maybe, but we need to know more about how it works. Walker stood and walked to a wall, map showing Earth's solar system. Small lights indicated the growing network of defense platforms, outposts on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, mining operations in the asteroid belt. Humanity was expanding, rebuilding. We've come too far to lose everything now, he said quietly. Captain Michael Reeves was a young man for such an important command. At 35, he had distinguished himself during the invasion by capturing an alien destroyer and turning its weapons against the Concordat fleet. His right arm was now an advanced prosthetic, a reminder of what that victory had cost him. He stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching his crew prepare for their first faster-than-light jump. Engine room reports ready, Captain, said his first officer, Commander Wilson. Dr. Reed, are you comfortable? Reeves asked the scientist, who sat at a specialized console designed to monitor alien technology. As comfortable as one can be when about to be flung across the galaxy, she replied with a small smile. Reeves turned to Major Diana Wells, who led the ship's squad of Special Forces soldiers. Your team ready, Major? Wells nodded. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were sharp. Ready to give General Krell a proper greeting if we meet him. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Reeves said. This is a reconnaissance mission. We observe the weapon, gather intelligence, and return to Earth. He sat in the captain's chair and opened the ship-wide communication system. All hands, prepare for FTL jump. This is not a drill. Reeves nodded to his navigator. Take us to the Erebus system. The Defiance shuddered slightly as its engines powered up. Outside, the stars seemed to stretch into lines. Then, with a flash, the ship vanished from Earth's solar system. On Nexus Station, Ambassador Gray met secretly with Commander Thex in a quiet corner of the station's garden area. Thex was a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on his face. He had once been a high-ranking officer in the Concordat fleet. Your ship has departed for Erebus? Thex asked in a low voice. Gray nodded. Can you tell me anything more about what they'll find there? Thex looked around nervously. The Purgation Front has gathered a large fleet to protect Sunforge. General Krell commands from his flagship, the Dominion. Why are you helping us? Gray asked. Your people tried to conquer Earth. Thex's upper eyes narrowed. Krell is a fool who dreams of old glories. The Concordat was corrupt and dying before we ever found your world. Your people simply hastened its end. He leaned closer. Some of us see a different future, one where species work together rather than conquering each other. A noble thought, Gray said, but difficult to believe after what your people did to Earth. Not all of us supported the invasion, Thex said, and after seeing how your people fought, many of us would prefer to be your allies than your enemies. Their conversation was interrupted by Liaison Vera, who approached quickly. Ambassador Commander, Vera said urgently, you must leave. Station security is searching for both of you. What's happened? Gray asked. Agents of the Purgation Front have accused you of espionage. They demand your arrest. Vera's black eyes showed concern. This is just an excuse. They plan to kill you both. Gray and Thex followed Vera through hidden maintenance tunnels within the station. They emerged near the docking bays. My ship is here, Thex said, pointing to a small, sleek vessel. I can take us somewhere safe. What about my staff? Gray asked Vera. Already warned. They are making their way to your emergency escape shuttle. Vera handed Gray a small data device. Take this. It contains all the intelligence the Ashtari have gathered about Sunforge. Your Captain Reeves will need it. As alarms began to sound throughout the station, Gray thanked Vera and boarded Thex's ship. Through the viewport, he watched as Nexus Station grew smaller behind them. Where are we going? He asked Thex. To join your ship, the alien replied. I know shortcuts through Erebus that your captain will need. Gray looked out at the stars streaking past. The Purgation Front is making their move. Yes, Thex agreed. The war has already begun. In the Erebus system, the Defiance emerged from faster-than-light travel far from the binary stars at the system's center. The ship's stealth systems, improved versions of Concordat technology, immediately activated. On the bridge, Captain Reeves ordered passive scans of the system. What they found confirmed their worst fears. Massive energy readings from the smaller star, reported Dr. Reed, studying her instruments. They've built something around it, something huge. Ship count? Reeves asked his tactical officer. At least 50 warships patrolling the outer system. The inner system has twice that many. This is a major fleet operation. Reeves studied the tactical display. So much for the element of surprise. We need to get closer to that weapon, Doctor. Reed looked up from her console, her face pale. Captain, based on these readings, Sunforge is nearly operational. The energy output is growing. How long? Reed shook her head. Days, maybe hours. Not the 2 weeks we thought. Reeves gripped the arms of his chair. The Defiance was alone, deep in enemy territory, facing an entire fleet protecting a weapon that could destroy Earth. Plot a course through the asteroid belt, he ordered. We need to get close enough to see exactly what we're dealing with. As the Defiance moved silently through space, the crew could not know that Ambassador Gray and Commander Thex were racing to join them, or that back on Earth, Admiral Walker was preparing for the worst. The storm was no longer gathering. It had arrived. The UES Defiance moved slowly through the asteroid belt of the Erebus system. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display that showed their position relative to the massive construction around the smaller of the binary stars. Magnify. Sector 7, he ordered. The screen zoomed in on part of the structure orbiting the star. It looked like a giant metal ring with numerous stations attached to it. Energy pulses flowed from the star through conduits into the ring. What are we looking at, Dr. Reed? Reeves asked. Reed frowned at her readings. It's like nothing I've seen before. They're harvesting energy directly from the star and channeling it through those arrays. She looked up at Reeves. Based on the energy signatures, this device operates on principles similar to Concordat weapons, but on a vastly larger scale. Can it do what they claim? Reeves asked. Create a directed solar flare that could reach Earth? Reed nodded grimly. Yes. The physics are sound. With enough energy, they could generate an artificial solar flare and direct it through a series of focusing arrays. The resulting beam would maintain coherence over interstellar distances. Commander Wilson joined them. Captain, we've detected a command station at these coordinates. He pointed to a large structure at the edge of the construction zone. It appears to be coordinating the work on the weapon. Reeves turned to Major Wells, who stood nearby. Major, I need your team to infiltrate that station. We need information on Sunforge's operational timeline and defensive capabilities. Wells nodded. My team can insert using the stealth shuttle. What's our objective? Get in, download their operational data, and get out without being detected, Reeves said. We need to know exactly when this thing will be ready to fire. And if we're detected? Wells asked. Reeves looked at her steadily. Then complete the mission at all costs. 2 hours later, Major Wells and her team of 5 Special Forces soldiers approached the Purgation Front Command Station in a small shuttle with stealth technology. The shuttle was barely visible against the backdrop of space as it docked with an emergency airlock on the station's underside. Remember, we're here for information, not a firefight, Wells told her team as they prepared to enter the station. Move fast. Stay quiet. They cut through the airlock and entered the station. The corridors were designed for beings larger than humans, with high ceilings and wide doorways. The team moved silently, using handheld devices to track life signs and avoid patrols. Command center should be 2 levels up, whispered Sergeant Martinez, checking a small holographic map. They found a maintenance shaft and climbed up. As they emerged on the upper level, 2 alien guards turned a corner and spotted them. Before the aliens could sound an alarm, Wells and Martinez fired their silenced weapons. The guards fell without a sound. Drag them into that storage room, Wells ordered. We need to move faster now. They reached the command center's outer door. Through a small window, they could see a large room filled with alien technicians working at various stations. At the center was a holographic display of the Sunforge weapon rotating slowly. Too many to take out quietly, Martinez said. Wells nodded. We'll use the bypass device. Dr. Reed said it should tap into their systems without alerting them. Sergeant Rodriguez attached a small device to the wall near the door. Its screen lit up, showing alien symbols rapidly changing. It's working, Rodriguez said. I'm getting data flows to schematics and operational timelines. His face suddenly paled. Major, according to this, Sunforge will be operational in less than 18 hours. Copy everything, Wells ordered. As Rodriguez worked, Wells peered through the window again. A large alien with distinctive red markings on its armor entered the command center. The other aliens immediately stood at attention. That's General Krell, whispered Lieutenant Park. Intelligence was right. He's personally overseeing this operation. Wells watched as Krell examined the holographic display. He seemed angry, gesturing forcefully at the technicians. One of the aliens brought up a new display showing Earth. He's planning to target Earth as soon as the weapon is ready, Wells said. Rodriguez suddenly tensed. Major, security protocols just changed. They're sweeping the systems, and they'll detect our device any second. Disconnect now, Wells ordered. Do we have what we need? Most of it, Rodriguez said, removing the device. Enough. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. A voice spoke in an alien language. They know we're here, Martinez said. Wells made a quick decision. Park, Rodriguez, take the data and get back to the shuttle. The rest of us will create a diversion to cover your escape. Major, Park protested. Those aren't our orders. Die. Mission is to get that data back to the Defiance, Wells said firmly. Now go. As Park and Rodriguez reluctantly headed back toward the maintenance shaft, Wells led Martinez and the others in the opposite direction. Let's make some noise, she said, pulling out explosive charges from her pack. Captain Reeves paced the bridge of the Defiance. The stealth shuttle had been gone for 3 hours, longer than planned. Any communication from Major Wells? He asked for the 3rd time. Nothing yet, sir, the communications officer replied. Wait, I'm picking up a transmission. It's Lieutenant Park. Park's voice came through, broken by static. Defiance, this is Park. We have the data, station security alerted, Major Wells and team providing diversion, requesting immediate pickup. Reeves turned to his tactical officer. Where are they? I have the shuttle's beacon, sir. They're moving away from the station, but they're being pursued by 2 patrol craft. Reeves faced a terrible choice. If he moved the Defiance to rescue the shuttle, they would lose their stealth advantage. The entire Purgation Front fleet would know they were there. Helm, set course to intercept the shuttle, he ordered. Weapons, prepare to engage those patrol craft. Sir, the tactical officer warned. That will expose our position. I know, Reeves said grimly. But we need that data, and I won't abandon our people. The Defiance moved out from behind the asteroid that had concealed it. Its engines flared as it accelerated toward the fleeing shuttle. Enemy patrol craft in range, reported the weapons officer. Take them out, Reeves ordered. The Defiance fired its main weapons. Beams of energy lanced across space, destroying both patrol craft instantly. The stealth shuttle, now clear of pursuers, adjusted course toward the Defiance. Sir, we're being scanned by multiple enemy vessels, the tactical officer reported urgently. They've detected us. Reeves watched as dozens of enemy ships began, moving toward their position. Get that shuttle aboard now. Then prepare for emergency jump to light speed. The shuttle docked quickly. Lieutenant Park and Sergeant Rodriguez rushed onto the bridge looking exhausted and grim. Where's Major Wells? Reeves asked. Park handed him a data device. She stayed behind to ensure we got out, sir. Her last order was to deliver this to you. Reeves took the device. Dr. Reed, analyze this immediately. He turned back to Park. Did any of them make it? Park shook his head. The command station exploded as we were leaving. They took out a significant part of it, sir. Major Wells completed her mission. A moment of silence fell on the bridge. Then the tactical officer's voice broke through. Captain, enemy vessels closing from all directions. We're surrounded. On the main screen, dozens of Purgation Front warships moved to encircle the Defiance. Leading them was a massive vessel that dwarfed the others. The Dominion, Rodriguez said quietly. General Krell's flagship. Dr. Reed looked up from her console, her face pale. Captain, I've analyzed the data. Sunforge is ready for initial testing now. They've accelerated the timetable. And, she hesitated. They're targeting Earth first. Reeves stared at the approaching enemy fleet. They were outgunned and surrounded. But Earth's survival depended on stopping that weapon. Helm, plot a direct course to Sunforge, he ordered. Sir? The helmsman questioned. Through the enemy fleet? Exactly, Reeves said, his artificial right hand clenched into a fist. Prepare the Prometheus device. The bridge crew fell silent. They all knew what the Prometheus device was designed to do. We may not make it back from this, Reeves said quietly, but Earth will. The Defiance turned toward the heart of the Erebus system, its engines glowing brightly as it accelerated toward the waiting enemy fleet. Behind them, unnoticed in the chaos, a small ship emerged from lightspeed. Ambassador Gray and Commander Thex had arrived, just in time to see the battle begin. The UES Defiance raced toward the heart of the Erebus system, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. Behind it, the Purgation Front fleet gave chase, led by General Krell's massive flagship, the Dominion. On the bridge, Captain Reeves gripped the arms of his command chair as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Shields at 60%, reported Commander Wilson. We can't take much more of this. Stay on course, Reeves ordered. How long until we're in range of Sunforge? 3 minutes, Captain, the helmsman answered. Dr. Reed worked frantically at her console. The Prometheus device is ready, but we need to get closer. It has to disrupt the star's magnetic field at precisely the right point. Lieutenant Park, who had barely had time to catch his breath since returning from the command station mission, suddenly called out from the communications station. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission on a concordant frequency. Ignore it, Reeves said. Focus on, sir, it's addressed specifically to us, using Earth military protocols. The source claims to be Ambassador Gray. Reeves hesitated. Put it through. Gray's voice filled the bridge. Defiance, this is Ambassador Gray aboard Commander Thex's vessel. We have crucial information about Sunforge's weaknesses. Do not, repeat, do not deploy the Prometheus device yet. Ambassador, we're a little busy right now. Reeves replied as the ship rocked from another hit. Captain, Commander Thex knows a way to disable Sunforge without using the Prometheus. His ship has a stealth system more advanced than yours. We can approach undetected while you draw their fire. Reeves glanced at Dr. Reed, who nodded. It's possible. The Prometheus is untested at full power. We don't know what might happen. After a moment's thought, Reeves made his decision. Ambassador, what's your plan? Thex can get us close to Sunforge's control nexus, Gray explained. The weapon draws power through 3 main conduits. If we can overload even one of them, the entire system will fail catastrophically. And how exactly do we do that? Reeves asked. Commander Thex's voice joined the conversation. My ship carries a quantum disruptor, a device designed to shut down concordant technology in case of rebellion. It will work on Sunforge. Another explosion rocked the Defiance. Shields at 40%, Wilson reported grimly. We'll keep them busy, Reeves decided. How much time do you need? 10 minutes, Thex replied. Reeves looked at his tactical display. The Defiance was taking heavy fire, and Krell's flagship was closing in. You've got 8. Make them count. As Thex's small ship slipped undetected toward Sunforge, Reeves ordered the Defiance to change course. Sir? The helmsman questioned. Take us straight at the Dominion, Reeves ordered. Let's introduce ourselves to General Krell. Aboard Thex's ship, Ambassador Gray held on as they maneuvered through the massive structure of Sunforge. The quantum disruptor, a cylinder about the size of a human arm, sat secured in a compartment near him. Why are you really helping us? Gray asked Thex as they flew. This goes beyond just hating General Krell. Thex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Gray had learned indicated thoughtfulness among his species. The old ways are failing, Thex said simply. The Concordat conquered and consumed for centuries. We called it progress, but it was just expansion without purpose. He guided the ship through a narrow gap between 2 massive energy collectors. Your species showed there is another way. You fought not to conquer, but to survive. You took our technology not to dominate others, but to protect yourselves. Gray watched as they approached a massive junction where energy from the star flowed through 3 enormous conduits. That is where we must place the disruptor, Thex said. The central control nexus. Will your ship be safe when it goes off? Gray asked. Thex made a sound that might have been a laugh. No. The energy backlash will destroy everything within 500,000 kilometers. Gray stared at him. That's a suicide mission. Yes, Thex agreed calmly, but it will save both our peoples. The Defiance slammed into the side of the Dominion, its remaining weapons firing at point-blank range. On the bridge, Reeves held on as systems sparked and failed around him. Direct hit on their main power core. Wilson shouted over the alarms. Shields failing, announced the tactical officer. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Reeves activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands prepare to abandon ship. Get to the escape pods. Dr. Reed looked up from her console. Captain, Sunforge is powering up. They're starting the firing sequence. Reeves checked the time. Gray and Thex had only been gone for 6 minutes. Can we still deploy the Prometheus device? He asked Reed. She shook her head. The launch system was damaged in the attack. On the main screen, they could see the massive arrays of Sunforge beginning to glow as they charged with energy from the star. In minutes, they would release a directed solar flare that would travel faster than light to Earth, burning away its atmosphere and killing all life on the planet. Sir, Park called out, I'm receiving a transmission from General Krell. The screen changed to show the alien general. His reptilian features were set in what might have been a smile. Human captain, Krell said, his voice translated by the ship's computer. You have fought well, but your primitive vessel is no match for the might of the Purgation Front. Surrender now, and I will allow your crew to witness the cleansing of your world before you join them in death. Reeves stood, despite the ship, shaking around him. Earth warned you, General. We said what would happen if you attacked us again. Krell made a dismissive gesture. Empty threats from a primitive species. Your warning means nothing. That's where you're wrong, Reeves said, calmly. Our warning wasn't empty. and you're about to find out exactly what happens when you ignore it. At that moment, a blinding flash of light erupted from the center of Sunforge. The massive weapon's structure began to break apart as energy surged back through its systems. "What is happening?" Krell demanded, his composure breaking. "What have you done?" Reeves allowed himself a small smile. "We annihilated you, just like we promised." The transmission cut off as Sunforge collapsed in on itself. The energy it had been drawing from the star rebounded through the system, creating a shockwave that tore through the Purgation Front fleet. "All hands to escape pods now," Reeves ordered as the Defiance began to break apart. 3 months later, Admiral Walker stood before the newly formed Galactic Council on Nexus Station. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations watched as he approached the central podium. Walker wore his formal uniform, decorated with medals from the invasion war. Behind him stood Ambassador Gray, now recovered from his injuries, and Dr. Reed, who had been promoted for her work analyzing alien technology. 3 months ago, Walker began, a coalition called the Purgation Front attempted to destroy Earth with a superweapon. They failed, thanks to the bravery of the crew of the UES Defiance and our allies. He looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. Most watched with interest. Some showed clear hostility. Others, like Liaison Vera of the Ashtari, nodded in approval. Twice now alien forces have attacked Earth. Twice we have defended ourselves. Walker's voice grew harder. "I am here today to restate our warning and to offer a choice." He pressed a button on the podium. A holographic display appeared, showing Earth's new defense network. Hundreds of platforms in orbit around the planet and throughout the solar system, all equipped with weapons based on those used to destroy Sunforge. "Earth does not seek war," Walker continued. "We do not want conquest. We only want to live in peace, to trade with those who wish to trade, to learn from those willing to teach, and to share what we know with those who ask." He paused, looking directly at the representatives from the remaining Purgation Front species. "But if attacked again, our response will be immediate and final. There will not be a third warning." The chamber was silent. Then Vera of the Ashtari stood. "The Ashtari support peace with Earth," the blue-skinned alien announced. "We have seen what humans can accomplish, both in war and in diplomacy. We choose alliance over conflict." One by one, other representatives stood to voice their support. Not all, but enough. As the session ended, Gray approached Walker. "Do you think they'll listen this time?" Walker watched as the aliens filed out of the chamber, talking among themselves. "Some will. The others." He touched the holographic display, rotating the image of Earth surrounded by its defenses. "The others now know we weren't bluffing." Back on Earth, cities were being rebuilt. Alien technology had accelerated recovery efforts and opened new frontiers in science, medicine, and quality of life. The first civilian faster-than-light ship was preparing for its maiden voyage to Proxima Centauri, carrying scientists and explorers, eager to see what lay beyond their solar system. In a memorial garden in what was once London, a monument had been erected to the crew of the Defiance and to Commander Thex. Captain Reeves, one of the few survivors, often visited. His artificial arm had been replaced with an even more advanced model, and he was training crews for Earth's growing fleet of ships. The warning remained, but alongside it grew something new. The possibility of peace in a galaxy that had known, mostly, war. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by conquering, but by refusing to be conquered, and that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all. The stars burned cold against the black emptiness of space. Through this vastness moved the dark ships of the Valthori Imperium. Their vessels looked like giant arrowheads made of obsidian, their surfaces so black they seemed to swallow light, rather than reflect it. For over 500 years these ships had been the most feared sight in the known galaxy. On the bridge of the flagship Dominion, High Commander Zex stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back. His scaled skin shimmered with hints of purple and blue under the dim lights. The massive viewscreen before him showed the small blue-green planet they approached. "Another human colony," he said, his voice a low rumble. They spread like parasites. His second-in-command, Officer Makara, nodded. This one is called New Appalachia. Population just under 10,000, primarily a mining operation. Any military presence? Minimal. A small security force. Nothing that could stand against even one of our scout ships. Zex made a clicking sound that passed for laughter among the Valthori. As expected. Send the usual message. We will conduct an inspection in 3 planetary rotations. They will prepare tribute as outlined in the treaty. Across the galaxy, 72 species lived under the boot of the Valthori Imperium. Some had fought and lost. Others had surrendered without battle. All paid tribute and bowed to Valthori authority. All except one, the humans. Not because humans had won any battles, but because they were too new and too small to be worth conquering. For now, the Valthori allowed them to exist on the edges of their territory, under strict rules. On the surface of New Appalachia, 10-year-old, Lily Spencer ran through rows of tomato plants in Greenhouse 5. Her brown hair bounced in pigtails as she carried a basket half filled with ripe red fruit. "Dad, I found some really big ones," she called out. Jack Spencer looked up from the soil testing equipment he was fixing. He was tall with broad shoulders and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. His hands were rough from years of work, first as a miner and now as operations manager for the entire colony. "Good job, kiddo. Your mom will be happy. She's making sauce tonight." Lily placed her basket on a nearby table and peered at her father's work. "Is it broken again?" "Just needs calibration. We have to make sure the soil has the right minerals. Earth plants are picky about growing on alien worlds." Outside the transparent dome of the greenhouse, New Appalachia spread out before them. The colony was nestled in a valley surrounded by purple-tinged mountains. Most buildings were simple prefabricated structures, arranged in neat rows. In the distance, the mining operations cut into the side of the eastern ridge. Above it all, a sky that was just a shade too green to be Earth stretched from horizon to horizon. "When can we visit Earth?" Lily asked. A question she had asked at least once a week since she was old enough to understand she had been born on a different planet than her parents. Jack smiled patiently. "Someday, when we've saved enough credits for the journey. It's a long trip." Before Lily could respond, a loud tone sounded throughout the greenhouse. 3 long beeps followed by 2 short ones. Jack's face turned serious. "That's a priority communication from the colony center," he said, putting down his tools. "Let's go." They walked quickly through the greenhouse and out into the alien air. It was breathable but had a slight metallic taste that newcomers to the colony needed time to get used to. The colony center was a larger building in the middle of the settlement. By the time Jack and Lily arrived, most of the colony's leadership was already gathering. Grace Spencer, Lily's mother, spotted them and waved them over. She was wearing her white doctor's coat, having come straight from the medical center. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and worry lines creased her forehead. "The Valthori are coming," she said quietly to Jack. "An inspection." Jack's jaw tightened. "We just had one 4 months ago. We followed all the regulations." At the front of the room, Colony Administrator Peter Ward called for attention. He was an older man with gray hair and a perpetually tired expression. "I've received official notice from a Valthori command ship. They will arrive in 3 days for an unscheduled inspection. They cite unusual resource signatures as the reason." Murmurs spread through the gathered colonists. "What unusual signatures?" someone called out. Administrator Ward shook his head. "They didn't specify. They never do. We need to prepare for their arrival. All departments will submit updated inventory reports. All mining operations will be temporarily suspended, and we need to gather the tribute resources." Lily tugged on her father's sleeve. "Why do we give them our stuff?" she whispered. Jack knelt down to her level. "Because right now they're stronger than us. But that won't always be the way of things." He glanced up at the other adults with a look that Lily didn't understand. "Humans are patient." After the meeting, the Spencers walked back to their home on the north side of the colony. Their house was small but comfortable, with potted earth plants adding splashes of familiar color to the alien setting. "I don't like it," Grace said as she began preparing dinner. "Two inspections so close together isn't normal." Jack nodded. "I'll check with William tonight." "Ambassador Carter?" Lily asked. She knew the name from her parents' conversations. William Carter was humanity's main representative to the Valthori. "Yes," Jack said. "He might know what they're really looking for." That night, after Lily went to bed, Jack sent an encrypted message to Earth's diplomatic offices. The response came sooner than expected. Ambassador Carter would be arriving with the Valthori ship. "This is serious," Jack told Grace as they sat at their kitchen table. "Carter wouldn't come all this way for a routine inspection." Grace took his hand. "Do you think they know?" Jack glanced toward Lily's bedroom door, making sure it was closed. "About the ore samples? I don't see how they could. We've been careful. If they find out we've been processing Starship-grade materials without declaring them, they won't," Jack assured her. "Everything's hidden in the old shaft. They never check there." 3 days passed quickly. The colony prepared as best it could. Extra food was cooked for the expected Valthori representatives. Tribute resources were gathered and arranged for display. Children were instructed to stay out of sight during the inspection. But Lily, curious as always, had no intention of missing the arrival of real aliens and a human ambassador from Earth. As the Valthori ship descended through the atmosphere, a dark shadow against the greenish sky, she hid behind supply crates near the landing pad. The ship was even more impressive up close. It hovered silently before settling on the ground with barely a sound. A ramp extended from its side, touching the soil of New Appalachia. First came the Valthori soldiers, their armor gleaming black with hints of purple. They moved with unnatural grace despite their large forms. Then came their commander, taller than the others, his scaled skin decorated with metal ornaments that marked his high rank. Finally, a human man in a formal suit descended the ramp. Ambassador William Carter looked tired but carried himself with dignity as he approached Administrator Ward and the colony leadership, including Lily's father. Lily couldn't hear what they said, but she saw the Valthori commander gesture sharply toward the mining operation. Something was wrong. The commander's voice rose, becoming audible even from Lily's hiding place. "You will show us everything. Now." The Valthori commander stood tall, his scaled skin catching the light as he towered over Administrator Ward. His name was Commander Vorax, and even among the Valthori, he was known for his cruelty. "Our scans detected unusual mineral signatures," Vorax said. His voice had a strange metallic quality that made Lily shiver in her hiding place. "Signatures that match Starship-grade materials. Materials you have not declared in your reports." Ambassador Carter stepped forward. He was shorter than the Valthori but stood straight and spoke clearly. "Commander, I'm sure there's a simple explanation. The New Appalachia colony has always complied with treaty requirements." Vorax's yellow eyes narrowed. "Then they will have no issue with a complete inspection." Jack Spencer moved to stand beside Ward. "We have nothing to hide, Commander, but our operation is extensive. It will take time to show you everything." "Time is something you do not have," Vorax said. He gestured to his soldiers. "Secure the mining facilities. Begin scanning immediately." The soldiers moved with frightening speed, spreading out across the colony. Colonists stepped back, faces tight with worry. No one dared to oppose the Valthori directly. Lily watched from her hiding spot, heart pounding. One of the soldiers walked near her position. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, between the supply crates. Ambassador Carter spoke quietly to Jack. "What's going on here, Spencer? I need to know what they might find." "Nothing unusual," Jack replied, but his eyes didn't meet the ambassador's. "For your colony's sake, I hope that's true." Carter turned back to Vorax. "Commander, as Earth's representative, I request to accompany your inspection team." Vorax made a dismissive gesture. "Follow if you wish, it will change nothing." The inspection party moved toward the mining operation. Lily slipped out from her hiding place and followed at a distance. She knew she should go home as her parents had told her, but curiosity pulled her forward. The main mining facility was built into the side of a mountain. Large equipment moved ore from deep tunnels onto sorting platforms. Everything had been shut down for the inspection, and the unusual silence made the place feel strange and empty. Vorax stood at the entrance to the main tunnel. Your production reports show a 7% increase over the last cycle, yet our scans indicate a much higher mineral extraction rate. Explain. Jack stepped forward. We've improved our efficiency. New equipment from Earth has allowed us to process more ore without increasing our extraction rate. Show me this equipment. Inside the main tunnel, Jack led the inspection group past various mining machines. He explained each one calmly, but Lily, who had snuck in and was hiding behind some equipment, could see the tension in her father's shoulders. One of the Valthori soldiers approached Vorax and whispered something. The commander's face darkened. There is another tunnel, Vorax said. One not on your facility maps. Jack's face paled slightly. That's an old shaft. We abandoned it due to instability. Then you will not mind if we inspect it. Commander, I must advise against it. The structural supports are compromised. It's not safe. Vorax's mouth formed what might have been a smile on a human face. On him, it looked like a predator baring its teeth. Your concern for our safety is noted, but we will see this tunnel. The group moved deeper into the mine. Lily followed, staying in shadows, moving from hiding place to hiding place. She knew these tunnels well from the times her father had brought her to work. She knew where they were heading, the old shaft where she was never allowed to go. At a junction in the tunnel, Jack stopped. The old shaft is through there, but, again, I strongly advise against entering. Vorax pushed past him. Your advice is not required. The commander entered the old tunnel with his soldiers close behind. Ambassador Carter gave Jack a worried look before following. Jack stood still for a moment, then entered as well. Lily waited until they were out of sight, then crept to the tunnel entrance. She could hear their voices echoing. As you can see, it's abandoned, came her father's voice. Then Vorax's angry response. Remove this wall section. There was a sound of equipment powering up, then a crash. Light flooded the tunnel as something was torn away. What is this? Vorax's voice had become dangerous. Lily moved closer, staying hidden behind mining equipment. She could now see into a chamber that had been concealed behind a false wall. Inside were stacks of metallic containers and advanced processing equipment that didn't look like standard mining tools. This is refined quadrium, Vorax said, holding up a glowing blue crystal. A controlled substance under the treaty. Its only use is for advanced starship engines. Ambassador Carter turned to Jack, his face shocked. Spencer, what have you done? Jack stood straight, no longer pretending. What we needed to do for humanity's future. You have violated the treaty, Vorax said. His voice was now eerily calm. The penalty is clear. The treaty is strangling us, Jack replied. The Valthori take our resources and give nothing in return. We need ships. Real ships, not the short-range transports you allow us. Your needs are not our concern. Vorax stepped closer to Jack. This colony will be disbanded. All resources seized. The leaders will face judgment on the Valthori homeworld. You can't do that. Jack's voice rose. There are families here, children. Vorax struck without warning. His large hand hit Jack across the face with such force that it sent him crashing into the wall. You do not tell a Valthori what can and cannot be done. Lily gasped from her hiding place. Without thinking, she ran out into the open. Dad! Everyone turned toward the sound. Lily rushed to her father, who was slumped against the wall, blood running from his mouth. A child, Vorax said, his voice filled with disgust. Remove it. One of the Valthori soldiers moved toward Lily. His hand reached out to grab her. Leave her alone. Jack tried to get up, but another soldier held him down. Ambassador Carter stepped between Lily and the soldier. She's just a child. Let me take her out of here. The soldier hesitated, looking to Vorax for orders. Vorax made an impatient gesture. Deal with this nuisance. The soldier pushed Carter aside with enough force to send the ambassador stumbling. Then he turned back to Lily, who stood frozen in fear. With casual cruelty, he backhanded her. Time seemed to slow. Lily's small body flew through the air, striking a metal support beam with a sickening thud before crumpling to the ground. Blood began to pool beneath her head. For a moment, everyone stood still. Then Jack let out a howl of rage and grief that echoed through the tunnel. He broke free from the soldier holding him and rushed to his daughter. Ambassador Carter stood, his face white with shock. "What have you done?" he whispered. Vorax seemed unimpressed. "It is merely a human child. Continue the inspection." But no one moved. Something had changed in the air. The human colonists who had been watching from a distance began to move forward, their faces transformed with a kind of fury the Valthori had never seen before. Carter knelt beside Jack, who was cradling Lily's broken body. Blood soaked through her clothes. Her breathing was shallow. "She needs medical attention immediately," Carter said, his diplomatic calm cracking with urgency. Vorax finally seemed to sense the change in the humans around him. "We will allow you to tend to your young," he said dismissively. "But this changes nothing. The treaty violations remain." Jack looked up. The grief in his eyes was now matched by something else, a cold, burning hatred that made even the Valthori step back. "Everything has changed," Jack said quietly. "You just don't know it, yet." News traveled fast. It always did when it mattered most. Grace Spencer worked with desperate focus in the colony's medical center. Her daughter lay on the treatment table, small and broken. Medical scanners hummed. Machines beeped. Grace's hands moved with the steady precision of a trained doctor, but her eyes held the wild fear of a mother. Severe concussion, internal bleeding, fractured skull. Her voice was flat as she listed the injuries to her assistant. Jack stood nearby, his face a mask of stone. Blood still dried on his lip from where Vorax had struck him, but he seemed to have forgotten his own pain. Ambassador Carter stood at his side, speaking urgently into a communication device. "I need an emergency channel to Earth Central," Carter said. "Authorization code Alpha 7 Echo 9. Outside the medical center, a crowd had gathered. Word of what had happened spread through the colony in whispers that grew louder with each telling. A Valthori had struck down a human child. The unforgivable had happened. Miles above the planet, Commander Vorax returned to his ship. He felt no remorse, no concern. The humans had broken the treaty. They would be punished as an example to others who might consider defiance. The child was irrelevant, merely a minor complication in an otherwise routine enforcement operation. "Set course for the nearest Valthori outpost," he ordered. "We will return with a containment fleet to process this colony." As the dark ship rose into the green-tinged sky, the humans watched in silence. Not with the usual fear that accompanied Valthori movements, but with something new. A cold, calculating rage that would soon spread across human space. On Earth, in the gleaming towers of the United Earth Government, Admiral Eleanor Blackwood received the encrypted message from New Appalachia. The holographic display showed the medical scans of Lily Spencer, followed by the security footage from the mining tunnel. The Admiral was a tall woman with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had led Earth's modest defense fleet for 15 years, always careful to maintain the delicate balance with the Valthori. Her career had been built on caution and diplomacy. She watched the footage 3 times. She watched the Valthori soldier strike Lily. She watched the child's body hit the metal beam. Then she stood, removed her uniform jacket with its admiral's insignia, and placed it carefully on her desk. Her aide looked confused. "Admiral, I'm resigning my commission," she said quietly. "Effective immediately." "Ma'am, I don't understand." "You will." She picked up her personal communication device. "Contact every ship captain in the fleet, not through official channels, person to person." Similar scenes played out across human space. Military leaders stepped down. Scientists abandoned government projects. Shipyard workers walked off the job without explanation. The Valthori noticed none of this. Their intelligence network reported only that human communications had become unusually quiet. There were no protests, no diplomatic outreach, no pleas for mercy. This was interpreted as submission, the natural response of an inferior species faced with punishment. They were wrong. In a small medical transport ship speeding toward New Appalachia, Dr. Samuel Reeves prepared his equipment. He was Earth's leading neurosurgeon, pulled from his bed in the middle of the night with only 2 words of explanation. A child. That was enough. He brought his best team and his most advanced equipment. Upon reaching the colony, Dr. Reeves worked for 22 hours straight, his hands steady as he repaired the damage to Lily's brain. Grace assisted, her medical training allowing her to work alongside the specialist despite her fear for her daughter. She'll live, Dr. Reeves finally said, removing his surgical mask. There will be challenges, but she'll live. Jack, who had not left the medical center since the incident, finally allowed himself to sit down. Thank you, he said, his voice rough from exhaustion. Dr. Reeves shook his head. No thanks needed. I came for her. We all did. Outside, more ships had arrived. Not military vessels. Earth couldn't risk that yet. But civilian ships of all kinds. Mining vessels, research boats, private yachts. They came filled with supplies, weapons hidden in cargo holds, and people with skills. Among these arrivals was former Admiral Blackwood. She wore civilian clothes as she stepped onto the colony's landing pad. A group of colony leaders and Earth representatives waited for her. You didn't need to come yourself, Ambassador Carter said, greeting her. Yes, I did. Her eyes were hard. Show me everything. They led her to a hastily established command center in the colony's main hall. Maps and diagrams covered the walls. People worked at communication stations. The room fell silent as she entered. The Valthori will return in force, one of the colony leaders said. Vorax made that clear. Blackwood nodded. How long do we have? 3 days, maybe 4. Not enough time to evacuate everyone. Jack Spencer stepped forward. He looked different. Now, older, harder. We're not evacuating, he said. Blackwood studied him. You're the father? Yes. How is she? She'll live. His voice caught slightly on the words. But that doesn't change what needs to happen now. Blackwood looked around the room. What are your resources? More than the Valthori know about, Jack said. We've been preparing, not just here, everywhere. Carter looked troubled. Eleanor, we need to consider diplomatic options. If we... Diplomacy ended when they touched her. Blackwood cut in. Her voice was not angry, just matter of fact. You know that as well as I do. She turned back to Jack. Show me what you have. Across human space, shipyards that had been producing freighters and science vessels began retooling with quiet efficiency. Colonial militias armed themselves. Veterans of Earth's conflicts emerged from retirement to offer tactical expertise. On Chu, Mars colony, Dr. Olivia Rodriguez, a leading weapons researcher who had publicly advocated for peace with the Valthori, locked her laboratory and began working on something new. Her team asked no questions when she said, for Lily. On Europa base, Commander Frank Dawson, who had once shared a diplomatic dinner with Valthori representatives, removed their gifts from his office wall and began drilling his security forces day and night. On every human world, the message spread. Remember New Appalachia? The Valthori intercepted some of these communications but failed to understand their significance. They had conquered species that outnumbered humans by billions, species with technology centuries more advanced. What threat could these soft, emotional creatures possibly pose? Commander Vorax, preparing his containment fleet, dismissed reports of unusual human activity. He had dealt with human defiance before. Their pattern was predictable. Initial resistance followed by surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They would learn their place, as all species eventually did. But Vorax did not understand the line that had been crossed. The Valthori had never faced an enemy with humanity's unique psychology. Their ability to cooperate across vast distances, their capacity to repurpose peaceful technology for war, and most dangerously, their response when their children were threatened. In the medical center on New Appalachia, Lily Spencer opened her eyes for the first time since the incident. Her first words were weak but clear. "Is Dad okay?" Grace, who had barely left her daughter's side, smiled through tears. "Yes, sweetheart, he's okay. The aliens were hurting him. I know, but don't worry about that now." Outside the medical center, final preparations were being made. The colony no longer looked like a mining outpost. Defenses had been erected. Weapons had been distributed. Ships hovered protectively in orbit. Jack Spencer stood with Eleanor Blackwood, looking up at the sky where Valthori ships would soon appear. "They don't understand what they've done," Blackwood said quietly. "No," Jack agreed. "They never bothered to learn about us. That was their mistake. There's still a chance this ends badly for humanity." Jack nodded. "But we won't be ruled by fear anymore. Not after Lily." Commander Vorax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion. Around him, a fleet of 30 Valthori warships moved in perfect formation. Each was a masterpiece of alien engineering, bristling with weapons that could reduce a colony to ash in minutes. "We will arrive at the human settlement in 6 hours," his navigation officer reported. "Good." Vorax's scaled face showed no emotion. "Prepare the containment protocols. The colony leaders will be taken for trial. The rest will be relocated to labor facilities." "What of their ships in orbit?" asked his second-in-command. Vorax studied the sensor readings. Several human vessels had gathered around New Appalachia. Mostly civilian ships, nothing that could challenge even one Valthori warship. "If they resist, destroy them," Vorax said simply. "They are making a display of defiance. It means nothing." The Valthori had never truly feared humans. They were too few, too weak, too divided. Their technology was primitive compared to the Imperium's. Their military was small and designed for defense, not conquest. They had been permitted to exist because they were not worth the effort to fully subjugate. But the Valthori had made a critical error in their assessment. They had never bothered to study human history. If they had, they might have understood what they were about to face. On New Appalachia, the colony had transformed. What had been a peaceful mining settlement now looked like a fortress. Defense. Turrets hastily assembled from mining equipment lined the perimeter. Shelters had been dug into the mountainside for non-combatants. Every adult who could hold a weapon had been armed and assigned a position. In the command center, former Admiral Blackwood stood before a holographic display of the approaching Valthori fleet. "They're coming in standard conquest formation," she said. "They expect minimal resistance." Jack Spencer nodded. He hadn't slept in days, but his eyes were clear and focused. "That works in our favor." Ambassador Carter looked troubled. "This is madness. We can't win a direct confrontation. We should evacuate who we can and surrender the colony." "This isn't about winning a battle," Jack said. "It's about showing them who we really are." Blackwood pulled up another display. "The Morning Star is in position. Dr. Rodriguez reports her modifications are complete. The mining fleet is standing by. And our friends in the Valthori home system? Ready? They're just waiting for the signal." Carter looked from one to the other. "What are you talking about? What modifications? What signal?" Neither answered him directly. Instead, Jack touched a control panel, opening a communication channel. "All units, final checks. They'll be here soon." In space, the human ships took up positions around the planet. They were an odd assortment: mining vessels with reinforced hulls, research ships equipped with powerful scanners, transport vessels designed to carry ore. None were built for combat. None looked dangerous to Valthori eyes. But appearances were deceiving. Dr. Olivia Rodriguez moved through the corridors of the Morning Star, a research vessel normally used for deep space studies. The ship's laboratories had been transformed. Where there had once been equipment for analyzing stellar phenomena, there were now rows of small metallic spheres. "Final calibration complete," her assistant reported. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. "Load them into the deployment tubes. Remember, precise targeting is essential." Throughout the ship, scientists and engineers, people who had spent their careers creating tools to understand the universe, now prepared for war. On the mining vessel Deep Horizon, Captain Kyle Mitchell briefed his crew. They were miners, not soldiers, but their faces showed the same determination. "Our ships are slow, but our hulls are reinforced to withstand asteroid impacts," he said. "We'll use that to our advantage. Approach patterns as we discussed. No heroics. Stick to the plan." Similar preparations took place on every human ship. People who had never imagined themselves as warriors checked weapons, studied tactical displays, and made final communications to loved ones. Lily Spencer sat up in her hospital bed for the first time since the attack. Her head was wrapped in bandages and she moved slowly, but her eyes were alert. Grace helped her take a sip of water. "Where's Dad?" Lily asked. "He's helping prepare our defense," Grace answered honestly. "The Valthori are coming back." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Because of what I saw in the mine?" "No, sweetheart. Because of what they did to you." The girl looked confused. "But I'm just one person." Grace smoothed her daughter's hair gently around the bandages. "To us, there's no such thing as just one person. Especially not a child." Outside the medical center window, they could see people moving with purpose, carrying equipment, checking defenses. The entire colony worked together like parts of a single machine. "Are we going to fight them?" Lily asked. "Yes," Grace said. "For the first time, we're going to show them who humans really are." The Valthori fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the new Appalachia system. Their black ships moved forward in attack formation, weapons ready. "The humans have not fled," Vorax noted with mild surprise. "Curious." "They have repositioned their ships," his tactical officer reported. "They appear to be attempting to block our approach." Vorax made a dismissive gesture. "A futile gesture. Open a channel. Let me explain the consequences of their continued defiance." A communication screen appeared before him. Jack Spencer's face filled the display. "Human," Vorax said. "Your colony has violated the treaty. Your ships will stand down and your leaders will surrender for judgment. Comply now, and the rest of your people will be spared." Jack's expression remained calm. "We have a message for the Valthori Imperium." "Your message is irrelevant. You will—" "The message is this: no more children." Vorax paused, confused by the human's words. "Explain. You'll understand soon enough." Jack's image disappeared. Vorax turned to his crew. "Advance on the colony. Disable their ships if possible. Destroy them if necessary." The Valthori fleet moved forward. The human vessels held their positions, seemingly waiting for the slaughter to begin. Then, without warning, the research vessel, Morningstar, released thousands of tiny metallic spheres. They spread out like a cloud, moving at incredible speed toward the Valthori ships. "What are those?" Vorax demanded. "Unknown objects," his sensor officer replied. "Too small to cause damage. No explosive signatures detected. Ignore them, continue advance." The spheres reached the Valthori fleet. They passed through the advanced shields as if they weren't there, because they weren't weapons in any conventional sense. They were Dr. Rodriguez's life work, repurposed. Medical nanites, designed to repair human cells, now reprogrammed for a different task. The tiny machines attached themselves to the Valthori ships' hulls and began to drill, seeking out control systems, power conduits, life support. Alarms blared across the Valthori fleet as systems began to fail. Ships lost power. Weapons went offline. Communications failed. "What is happening?" Vorax roared. Before anyone could answer, the mining vessels began to move. Slow but unstoppable, their reinforced hulls designed to withstand the harshest conditions of space, they accelerated toward the disabled Valthori ships. Captain Mitchell's voice came over the emergency channel. For Lily, the first impacts shook the Valthori fleet. The mining vessels were not trying to destroy their targets, only to damage them enough to prevent their escape. One by one, The proud warships of the Imperium were crippled by vessels never designed for combat. On the Dominion, Vorax watched in disbelief as his fleet was systematically disabled by an enemy he had dismissed as weak and primitive. How is this possible? He demanded of no one in particular. His communications officer, voice shaking, provided the answer. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Valthori homeworld. Commander Vorax stared at the communication screen as it flickered to life. The image showed the Grand Hall of the Valthori High Council on the homeworld, a place that should have been secure, untouchable by human hands. But something was wrong. The council members were not seated in their usual places of power. Instead, they stood in a group surrounded by humans in plain clothes. What is this? Vorax demanded. The face of scholar matriarch Zivix appeared on the screen. She was one of the oldest and most respected members of the Valthori leadership, known for her study of other species. Commander Vorax, she said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. The High Council has been convinced to reconsider our relationship with humanity. Vorax could not believe what he was seeing. How have humans reached the homeworld? Our defenses were designed to stop warships and known weapons, Zivix interrupted, not cargo vessels filled with volunteers on one-way journeys. The camera moved to show more of the council chamber. Humans stood calmly among the Valthori leaders. They carried no visible weapons, yet somehow they had taken control of the heart of the Imperium. The screen split to show similar scenes from across Valthori space, their major military bases, their shipyards, their most secure facilities. In each location, humans had appeared and taken control with minimal violence. Impossible, Vorax whispered. Jack Spencer's voice came over the communication channel. Not impossible, just unlikely, like a small mining colony successfully fighting back against the Imperium. The screen changed again, showing what at first looked like stars against the black of space. But as the image zoomed in, Vorax realized he was seeing thousands of small ships approaching the Valthori homeworld from all directions. Not warships, simple transport vessels carrying more humans. While you focused on our military capabilities, Jack continued, you never bothered to count how many of us were willing to risk everything when you crossed the line. Blackwood's voice added, you never studied us. If you had, you'd know what happens when humans unite against a common enemy. On New Appalachia, in the command center, Jack and Blackwood watched Vorax's stunned reaction. Around them, the colony's leadership waited in tense silence. How long have you been planning this? Ambassador Carter asked, his diplomatic composure finally broken. Years, Jack admitted. Not just here. Everywhere humans have settled. The treaty violations were intentional. We needed the Valthori to focus on something small, quadrium smuggling, while we prepared something much bigger. Carter shook his head in disbelief. And all those ships reaching the Valthori homeworld? One-way missions, Blackwood said quietly. Volunteers, people willing to give everything to change the balance of power. But why now? Why not wait until... Because of Lily, Jack said simply. We were planning to wait another year, build more strength, but when they hurt her, when they showed such casual cruelty to a child, everyone agreed. It had to be now. On the Dominion, Vorax struggled to comprehend how thoroughly he had been outmaneuvered. His mighty fleet lay disabled. His homeworld was compromised. The Imperium's most secure facilities had been infiltrated not by soldiers, but by ordinary humans willing to sacrifice everything. What do you want? He finally asked, his arrogance replaced by confusion. Jack Spencer's face filled the screen again. A new arrangement, one based on respect, not fear. Matriarch Zivix spoke from the homeworld. The High Council is prepared to negotiate new terms with humanity. You cannot simply... Vorax began. It is already done. Zivix cut him off. The humans have shown us a strength we did not recognize and a mercy we did not expect. Mercy? Vorax spat the word. They could have killed us all, Zivix said. Instead, they asked to talk. 1 month later, Lily Spencer sat in the colony's meeting hall, watching as her father signed his name to a document. Beside him stood Matriarch Zivix, her scaled hand, adding the mark of the Valthori High Council. The hall was filled with people from both species. Humans and Valthori stood together, watching the creation of something new. The Lily Accords. Grace explained quietly to her daughter. They're agreeing that children of all species will be protected during any conflict. That what happened to you will never happen to anyone else. Lily looked at her mother. The bandages were gone from her head now, though her hair was still growing back over the surgical sites. All because of me? Because of what you showed them, Grace said. That hurting a child was something humanity would never accept, not from anyone. Across the room, Ambassador Carter stood with Blackwood. I still can't believe it worked, he said. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our response to threats against our children, Blackwood replied. The Valthori just didn't know it until now. After the signing, Jack came to sit beside his daughter. How are you feeling? Better, Lily said. She looked at the Valthori in the room. They seemed different now, less frightening, more real. Are they our friends now? Jack considered this. Not exactly, not yet, but they respect us now. And that's where friendship can begin. Matriarch Zivix approached the Spencer family. She bowed slightly to Lily, a gesture of respect that would have been unthinkable months before. Your recovery pleases me, she said, in careful human language. Lily, with a child's directness, asked, Why did your people hurt me? The matriarch was silent for a moment. Because we did not see. We thought strength was only in weapons and warships. We did not understand that true strength lies in what a people will do for their young. Will you hurt other children? Never again, Zivix promised. The Lily Accords will ensure that. Later that evening, the Spencers returned to their home. It looked much as it had before everything changed, though now tall windows offered a view of the valley where a joint human-Valthori science facility was being built. Lily went to her room, tired from the day's events. Jack and Grace sat together at the kitchen table, finally allowing themselves a moment of quiet reflection. Did you ever imagine it would end like this? Grace asked. Jack shook his head. I thought we'd be lucky to survive. I never expected to change the entire balance of power in the galaxy. It wasn't just us, Grace said. It was everyone. Every human who volunteered. Every ship that carried them. Every scientist who repurposed their life's work. All because they hurt a child, Jack said quietly. Outside, the alien sky darkened. Stars appeared, the same stars that had once belonged to the Valthori, ruled through fear. Now they belonged to all species, with the promise of something better. In her room, Lily looked out at those stars before falling asleep. She didn't fully understand all that had happened or her place in it. She just knew that something had changed, something important. And somehow it had started with her. Across human space, the story spread. The story of how the mighty Valthori Imperium had been brought low not by weapons or armies, but by their failure to understand a simple truth. That humans would never ever accept harm to their children. Not from anyone. Not even from those who ruled the stars with fear.